April 22, 1943, 19,000 feet above Sicily. The sky was a trembling blue void, stitched with black puffs of flak and the shimmering contrails of dying planes. Lieutenant James "Jimmy" Howell, a 25-year-old American pilot of the 57th Fighter Group, gripped the trembling stick of his P-40 Warhawk and prayed it would hold together for just 5 more minutes. He could feel the vibration through his gloves. The fuselage was cracked. Oil was leaking across the canopy glass, and the right wing looked like it was held together by little more than paint and desperation. 2 Messerschmitt Bf-109s hung behind him, like wolves stalking a limping deer. His radio had gone silent hours ago. His squadron was gone. The Mediterranean sun glared off the sea below, beautiful, endless, and deadly. Then came the burst. Tracers sliced past his cockpit, one round tearing through the right side of the fuselage. The P-40 lurched violently. Instruments went dead. Alarms wailed. The Warhawk was dying. Jimmy slammed the throttle forward, coaxing the last ounce of speed from the battered Allison engine. The plane shook like a wounded animal. A wisp of smoke curled from the exhaust. He could smell the burning oil. He could taste it, and then silence. The engine coughed twice, sputtered, and died. Howell was 25 miles off the coast of Sicily. No power, no cover, no chance. He ripped off his goggles, heart hammering. The Messerschmitts circled once, banking gracefully, then peeled away, leaving him to the sea. For a moment, the sky was quiet again. Just the whine of wind over a dying machine. Jimmy made a choice. If he was going down, he'd at least try to reach land. He trimmed the nose down, feathered the prop, and began gliding toward the faint gray smear of coastline on the horizon. Every second felt like an hour. The cockpit temperature soared. The controls stiffened. The Warhawk groaned, metal bending under unseen stress. At 2,000 feet, the left wing shuddered. A seam tore open near the root. The whole aircraft twisted slightly, like it wanted to split in half. He whispered, "Hold together, baby. Just hold together." By the time he saw the Sicilian cliffs, he was barely above the waves. The sun flashed off the water, blinding him. He yanked the stick back, belly flopped into a dry patch of sand, and felt the world explode around him. When he woke up, the Warhawk was in pieces, but he wasn't. Sand in his mouth, smoke in his lungs. And in front of him, impossibly, the broken fuselage of his aircraft, still holding its shape. Locals found him that night, bloodied, barely conscious, but alive. They carried him to a nearby farmhouse, and when he finally woke again, 2 days later, he asked only one question: "Can the plane be fixed?" The mechanics laughed at first. The frame was cracked in 3 places. The tail was nearly sheared off. It was a miracle it had landed at all. But Howell didn't laugh. He sketched the damage on a notepad, tracing the brake lines with trembling fingers. He had an idea, a wild one. And that idea, born from desperation and duct tape, would change the face of air combat forever. As Howell's Warhawk lurched and shuddered in the thin, biting air at 19,000 feet, the sky was no longer just blue. It was a battlefield. Trails of black smoke curled from distant planes, streaking the heavens with death. Every maneuver felt like threading a needle at the edge of a storm. Enemy fighters, sleek Messerschmitt Bf-109s, appeared like shadows flitting across the sunlit canvas, their guns spitting fire with deadly precision. Howell's eyes, wide with focus, darted from one threat to the next, calculating trajectories and estimating speeds in fractions of seconds that could mean life or death. The P-40, battered from earlier encounters, groaned under the strain of rapid dives and tight turns. Its patched fuselage creaked with each throttle change, a testament to the pilot's ingenuity back at base, where planes were repaired with whatever metal and glue were on hand. Howell felt the vibrations through the stick, as though the aircraft itself were warning him, yet he pressed forward. Around him, comrades were engaged in a desperate aerial chess game, weaving through flak bursts and tracer rounds, each decision a gamble. Amid the chaos, Howell spotted a German fighter lining up on a young American pilot whose engine was smoking. Without hesitation, he pulled into a steep climb, cutting across the enemy's path, forcing the Messerschmitt to overshoot. The exchange of machine gun fire was deafening in his ears, a terrifying symphony of metal and fire. This moment, fleeting as it was, became a turning point. Howell's daring interception saved the life of his comrade and began to carve his legend into the clouds. But it was more than heroics. Each maneuver, each split-second choice, revealed the brutal calculus of air combat. Pilots were no longer just men in machines. They were strategists, mathematicians, and daredevils rolled into one, navigating physics and fear simultaneously. And above all, Howell realized something the generals back home would take longer to understand. Survival required innovation. The patches, the glued fuselage, the daring dives, these weren't just temporary fixes. They were the seeds of a new style of aerial warfare, one that emphasized adaptability over brute force, cunning over conventional tactics. The sky had become a volatile theater of motion and noise. Flak shells erupted below, like thunderclaps from hell, scattering fragments across the clouds. Howell's P-40, barely holding together, rattled violently with each impact, its patched wings shivering under the pressure. Sweat stung his eyes, not just from fear, but from the pure intensity of survival at 19,000 feet, where every heartbeat echoed like a drum signaling both defiance and doom. Ahead, a formation of enemy fighters sliced through the sunlight like predatory sharks. Howell's instincts, honed by countless hours in the cockpit, screamed at him. Evade. Yet the pilot in him, a stubborn, relentless force, pulled the throttles forward, sending the plane into a tight spiral. The glued seams groaned as the fuselage twisted, and a wingtip threatened to shear off. In that moment, the line between life and death blurred. Each maneuver was a conversation with gravity, a negotiation with metal, and a battle with the inevitable. Then the impossible happened. Howell spotted a Ru-87 Stuka dive bomber breaking away from the formation, its nose gun blazing at Allied troops far below. Without a second thought, he dove, engines screaming, his patched Warhawk slicing through the turbulence like a blade. The Stuka pilot was focused entirely on ground targets, oblivious to the predator closing in from above. With precise, almost surgical timing, Howell aligned his sights and fired. The enemy plane erupted in a fiery blossom, spiraling toward the earth. Howell felt the jolt through the stick and the faint, hollow thrill of victory, an awareness that in war, moments of triumph were inseparable from terror. But this victory was not without consequence. Pieces of the P-40's patched fuselage tore free in the wake of the dive, leaving Howell with a plane that now seemed more fragile than a bird's nest in a storm. Yet in that fragility lay the revelation that would change aerial combat forever. Survival was not about having the strongest plane or the largest formation. It was about ingenuity, courage, and the willingness to push the limits of both man and machine. Howell's daring, born of desperation, had created a blueprint for future pilots, showing that sometimes the most innovative strategies emerge not from calm planning, but from the chaos of near-certain death. As the clouds swallowed him, the sun glinting off the smoldering horizon, Howell realized the war was changing, and with it, the rules of engagement. Air combat would never be the same. Pilots like him were no longer just participants. They were pioneers, writing new tactics in the sky with every heartbeat, every maneuver, every daring act that defied the odds. The war below continued, relentless and indifferent. But above the clouds, Howell had changed something fundamental. News of his exploits spread slowly at first, a whispered tale among pilots. a story passed from one squadron to another. Mechanics marveled at the patched fuselage that had survived impossible maneuvers. Commanders studied the audacity of his tactics. What had begun as a desperate act of survival became a lesson in ingenuity and courage that would ripple through the air forces for years to come. In the months that followed, Howell's approach inspired a subtle revolution in air combat strategy. Pilots were encouraged to improvise, to adapt, and to trust their instincts even when facing superior enemy machines. Aircraft design began to account not just for raw firepower or armor, but for flexibility, repairability, and resilience under duress. The lessons learned from Howell's flights of glued wings, daring dives, and split-second decisions became codified in training manuals, influencing tactics across theaters of war. Yet for Howell, the story was never about fame. He often spoke little of the missions, only recounting them to those who truly understood the sky's unrelenting demands. To him, it was about the bond between pilot and plane, the trust forged in moments where death seemed inevitable, and the knowledge that survival sometimes demanded audacity beyond reason. Every maneuver, every patch, every risk taken at 19,000 feet was a testament to human ingenuity and the will to persevere against impossible odds. And so, the legend of James "Jimmy" Howell lived on, not just as a hero of a single mission, but as a symbol of innovation under pressure, courage against the impossible, and the transformative power of daring to challenge convention. In the decades that followed, generations of pilots would look to his story as proof that in the skies of war, the human spirit could rewrite the rules, turn desperation into opportunity, and leave a mark that no enemy, no matter how formidable, could erase. The clouds he once soared through had witnessed history, and through Howell, history had